Init! Ang init, diba? The Philippines Rising Heat Index is an example of how a changing climate can disrupt the delicate balance of supply and demand, impacting everything from farm production to consumer behavior and ultimately inflation. Let's delve deeper into this phenomenon through the lens of economics. Init talaga, my God. Now, let's talk about how the rising heat index impacts the farm production and delivers a brutal blow to agricultural supply. It can cause lower crop yields. Too much heat can interfere with a plant's development, growth, blooming, and seed production. Reduced crop yields, dying, and delayed development can result from distress. Heat stroke and damage. High temperatures can harm certain crops. They may experience heat stroke, a condition in which extreme heat damages the tissues of plants. This may cause the plant to fade, get sunburned on its leaves, or possibly die. Increase water scarcity. High temperatures accelerate evaporation, leading to water scarcity. This can further limit crop growth and even lead to crop failure, especially if irrigation systems are inadequate. This causes translates to a decrease in the overall supply of vital food items like fruits, vegetables, and grains. The rising heat index is a double-edged sword for Filipino farmers, hurting not just their crops but also their health and well-being. It can cause heat stress, dehydration, and heat stroke can result from prolonged exposure to the intense sun. Farmers suffer from fatigue, cramps, and discomfort impacting their livelihood. Limited work hours can lead to income reduction due to adjusting schedules during the hottest hours. These factors can create an endless cycle. If farmers can't work due to heat, farms become less productive. Lower farm productivity can lead to a financial strain, making it harder for farmers to invest in protective measures or adopt their practices. Heat doesn't just impact what's available, it also influences Filipino consumer behavior and demand. It can increase demand for cooling products and services. Filipinos will likely buy more air conditioners, electric fans, and other cooling appliances. Aminin nyo guys, ang laki ng bill nyo dahil sa aircon. There could be a surge in demand for iced drinks, halo-halo, and other refreshing treats. Aminin nyo rin, lagi kayong nakahalo-halo tulad ko. Consumption of water will rise significantly and this could affect the prices of these food items. Changes in shopping habits. Consumers might adjust their shopping habits to avoid the heat. They shop more often but buy less each time so their food doesn't go bad. They order their groceries online instead of going to the store themselves. Resource strain. Power outages could result from the heavy demand for electricity to run air conditioners. In certain locations, water resources may be strained due to increased usage. The combined effects of lower farm production and increased demand for specific goods create conditions for higher inflation. Here's why. It can cause unbalanced supply and demand. Lower yields lead to a reduction in the supply of agricultural products, which in turn causes an imbalance between consumer demand and higher pricing. When the heat reduces supply and consumer demand remains the same or even increases for some items, it creates an imbalance. With less supply to meet higher demand, the basic principle of economics dictates that prices will tend to rise. Inflation and food rates. The PSA report provided by our professor likely details inflation rates with a specific focus on food inflation. If the report shows a rise in food inflation, it could be partly due to the heat impacting agricultural output since the heat starts to rise in the month of March. When food prices rise, it contributes to overall inflation. This means the general cost of living goes up, potentially putting a strain on people's purchasing power. Increased energy cost. A greater demand for cooling power may result in increased energy cost, which will affect living expenses generally. The interplay between shrinking supply and potentially rising demand creates a classic case of supply and demand imbalance. With less supply to meet potentially higher demand, basic economic principles dictate that prices will tend to rise. This is particularly true for food items, a significant component of most household budgets. The burden falls most heavily on low-income families who spend a larger portion of their income on food. To summarize, the rising heat index in the Philippines presents a complex economic challenge. Through a clear understanding of demand and supply, we can see how this environmental phenomenon disrupts farm production and consumer behavior, ultimately contributing to inflation. By implementing proactive measures and fostering public awareness, the Philippines can navigate this economic heat wave and ensure a more secure future for its farms, consumers, and to our wallets. Wala akong pera. Goodbye. I hope you learned something.